So something really interesting is going on in the War Within Alpha. A few years ago we learned that nathrezim were right about to recruit an Agent of Life, a female agent, through the Ardenweald connection. Do you know what connects Ardenweald to Azeroth? World trees. And the first ever world tree that probably established this connection is Elun'Ahir, that is almost certainly in Khaz'Algar. Right around the roots, a new race, the harronir, seem to be the protectors, the vassals of life. Now, all of them have blue eyes, but one character has green. Remember, the vassal of life disguises treachery. Beware the eyes are green. They seem to have a vampiric bat-type form similar to Revendreth, and most interestingly, they say they want to remain unseen. Now, do you know a certain race that refers to themselves as the unseen guests? Well, it's obviously the nathrezim, and while it is still early to say anything for sure, they might have already began infiltrating Azeroth. So what is even going on? If you want to get Dragonfight or anything else Warcraft related, Gamivo has some excellent deals that you can check out with my link below. Best of all, you can get software, gift cards, a bunch of games at below market prices. On top of that, you can also use my code Doron to get yet another discount, so make sure to check out my link below and grab some amazing deals at Gamivo. So, a really crazy theory came up within the community that at first I didn't really read too much into because it seemed really far-fetched, but it's like there's suspiciously enough evidence that this seems to be piling up, but definitely it seems like something is going on here, like there's just way too much to be a coincidence. So you guys must have heard about the harronir, the new race, and very likely the new allied race based on how much development they had gotten so far, even though Blizzard is purposefully keeping them hidden. These seem to be dark trolls, and something akin to the ancestors or the missing link between the evolution of the dark trolls to night elves. Originally, dark trolls breached the Well of Eternity, became the night elves, but it seems like these guys remain here, and even more interestingly, with the new alpha information, they seem to be hiding in this place. And months ago I made a theory that Khaz'Algar is the World 3 Elun'Ahir, and that is getting more evidence by the day, where it is all but actually confirmed. Everything right now is sort of lining up. Elun'Ahir is essentially the first ever World 3 on Azeroth. No such thing existed in the past. This was an unholy alliance of sorts, as the Titan Eonar and the Life Titan Elun collaborated on this. Apparently, they planted this on the site of the most corrupted part of Azeroth in order to cleanse it, but the lead Titan guy Amantul didn't like this idea, so he just yoinked it and created a huge crater. Interesting enough, we had just discovered what appears to be the 5th Old God mural right in Khaz'Algar that might imply that an Old God was present here that was possibly defeated by his own in the Black Empire Civil Wars. Hence, this spot might have been the most corrupted part of Azeroth. This all really seems to line up, as we got a mural in the lowest most layer. We got Old God servants and Nerubians living there. We got Old God blood. We got a ton of these Old God corruptions everywhere. We also got roots, ancient guardians, protectors, and various nature beings. Even more interestingly, the book stated that unknown guardians came to nurture what remained of the World Tree, and these druidic dark trolls came in and they all got root-like armors, and they seem to be the main race of the zone, and by all accounts, it could be them. So that is all the backstory, but where do the Dreadlords come into play here? The alpha on the harronir just started, so we don't have all that much information, but we have data mined some oddly interesting things. From what we could gather, the harronir are generally blue-eyed, and most models we had seen with blue eyes, but Orvenia, what appears to be one of the lead characters, has green eyes. You can confirm this yourself. Just go to the WoW head customization for the harronir and you will see that there are no other options other than blue and just no vision. That immediately leads us to the very famous quote from nearly a decade ago: "The vassal of life disguises treachery, beware the eyes of green." Of course, I know, and I don't think Blizzard ever had any of this in mind when they came up with the quote, hence it has been so vague it can really be applied to anything, but I think they may be working off that now. You may be thinking, big deal, are we going to think anyone that has green eyes now is a Dreadlord and will betray us? But as I said at the start, there is an odd collection of evidence that connects this, but also kinda doesn't at the same time. First of all, Orvenia perfectly comes into this quote. She's quite literally, by definition, the vassal of life. Elun created the World 3, these guys are quite literally her vassals. However, the rabbit hole goes much deeper, which is why this is so interesting. So, the harronir seem to be able to transform into bats, which kinda plays into the vampiric vibe that I originally mentioned with them. As you may remember, bats were a pretty big deal back in Revendreth, and we had seen them everywhere. However, as they're dark trolls, the bat thing is not unnatural whatsoever, especially as they literally live in a cave, and that's usually where you would find bats. These bat models, though, seem really vampiric as well. Now, of course, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying all harronir are Dreadlords, but the idea is that the nathrezim may have infiltrated them, as this is a common connection point because they had trouble infiltrating life. Let's look back at this quote that definitely plays into this. The famous quote from the lore-shattering book we found in the Shadowlands. This went crazy with the nathrezim lore, as they told us they have agents everywhere. They talked about how life is the most difficult force for them to infiltrate, as it is the polar opposite to their natural form, hence they don't even know where to start. This is what they said verbatim. Still, we learned much from observing the link between their plane and Ardenweald, and we have high confidence that the vulnerability has been identified. Our operative has already gained the trust of her target. So when you look at it, this quote says a few things. First is that the operative seems to be a female, which plays into the character Orvenia, and that this could be a female Dreadlord. Second, and even more important quote, they talked about how they found this vulnerability through the link between Azeroth and Ardenweald. And do you know what connects the two? World trees. Elun and the Winter Queen seem to be sisters. This is the exact same cycle, with life being summer, death being winter, so it is all connected. Do you think it is interesting that these guys are the guardians of the first ever world tree? It seems like that when Elun planted the first ever world tree on Azeroth, that is when the connection was created to Ardenweald. It could mean that Elun'Ahir, the roots in Khaz'Algar, are literally the source that connects the Shadowlands to Azeroth. However, as I said, the rabbit hole goes even deeper. So we just got some actual quotes from the harronir in the alpha, and they seem to be constantly mentioning that they are hiding. Obviously, I don't necessarily think this means much, as they probably want to protect the roots while they're surrounded by powerful foes all over the place, and these guys might want to damage the roots. But we have this really strange quote that we just got in the alpha. We're supposed to be subtle, unseen, keep to the brush, hide in our other forms as much as possible. Once again, doesn't mean much, but as I said, there seemed to be a ton of like connecting evidence that is connecting, but it also couldn't be anything at the same time. Do you find it strange that they would highlight this word specifically, the word unseen? As you may know by the lore, Dreadlords of the nathrezim are most known by their name, the Unseen Guests. Now, a bit of a spoiler here, but Blizzard is already doing the entire disguising plot in War Within with Xal'atath infiltrating Dalaran, so that is obviously on their mind. However, the real question is, why exactly would the nathrezim infiltrate this random race 5 zones beneath the ground? Isn't there another point to get agents to the positions of power so they can get like big characters like Jaina, Ysera, Malfurion, someone that can actually do things? Well, realistically, the Dreadlords are always many steps ahead, while we lore-wise are just learning now who Xal'atath even is, which kind of makes it funny that Blizzard is just mentioning this name in Xal'atath in the cinematics, and anyone that has followed the lore more closely knows that we've been talking about her for years. However, she has been at this plan for years, and the nathrezim, as far as we know, have a void agent, so they must have known she would reach Khaz'Algar, they must have known about Khaz'Algar, and this race seems perfect to infiltrate it if there is the primordial connection to Ardenweald. Even more interestingly, in a recent interview, Blizzard stated that there is a map of Khaz'Algar they don't want to reveal in the alpha and the beta, as it would spoil the storyline significantly, so there's definitely more to Khaz'Algar than it appears on first glance. Now, I've talked about this for quite a while now. The Nathrez is not gone, he's obviously still a major player. He was in the cliffhanger cinematic at the end of Shadowlands, he survived the entire ordeal, and he kinda laughed at the jailer and his stupid plan. Realistically, almost all Dreadlord actions wasn't even the jailer, as many people believe, but the Nathrez. Everyone seems to be coming for Azeroth in the World Soul Saga. We got the Light, the Void, Elun, the Life Titans. Why exactly wouldn't that be coming as well? So, while this could all of course be nothing, I would say we should keep an eye out for Revendreth. I mean, the information is super limited right now, but the Dreadlords may actually be coming. Thank you for watching. Check out the identity of Xal'atath by clicking on the screen, and check out my video on the cult of Mithras and Roman mythology by clicking on the screen as well. See you next time.